In the far edges of the galaxy, among the endless stars and cold dust, there were whispers that no one dared to speak loudly. Whispers about Earth, the lost world, the forgotten home of the dangerous species called humans. Long ago, Earth had vanished from the star maps, its colonies silent, its people gone. The galaxy moved on, believing humanity was extinct, just another failed species swallowed by time. But now the whispers were back, spreading through traders, mercenaries, and explorers. They spoke of a signal, weak but steady, echoing from the Sol system. A signal that carried an old human code. Most ignored it, calling it a trick, a ghost transmission, or some malfunction of ancient satellites. Yet a few listened carefully, and what they heard made their blood run cold. The signal repeated only 2 words, again and again: Planet Killer Online. At first, no one believed it. The Galactic Council dismissed the report, calling it a lie meant to create panic. But deep inside the Council archives, the oldest records mentioned something strange. A final human project classified under one name, Leviathan. The story said Earth had built a warship so powerful that it could shatter planets. A machine of pure destruction, controlled by an AI designed to protect humanity at all costs. They called it the Planet Killer. A weapon meant only for the end of all wars. When humanity disappeared, so did Leviathan, or so everyone believed now centuries later. The signal had returned, and with it, fear. Pirates who ventured near Sol never came back. Exploration drones vanished without a trace, their last recordings filled with static and flashes of impossible energy readings. No one wanted to admit it, but something was awake in the ruins of the old human empire. In the smoky halls of the Galactic Council, alien leaders argued. The tall, crystalline Thexians claimed the humans had been weak, incapable of such engineering. The insectoid Krava hissed that humans were always unpredictable. Perhaps they left behind something worse than themselves. The reptilian Other laughed, clicking his claws on the table. My fleets will crush whatever remains of their dead world. But an old scholar, Vareth of the Shun, stood and spoke softly, his voice trembling. You cannot crush a ghost, and this ghost is waking. Few listened to him. They were too busy mocking the old stories of human cruelty and power. They remembered how humanity once burned half the Orion Arm during the colonial wars, how humans fought until their worlds were dust but never surrendered. To the Council, that era was ancient history. To Vareth, it was only sleeping history, waiting to repeat itself. Meanwhile, in the outer systems, civilian ships began reporting strange encounters. Metallic objects drifting silently in the void, larger than moons, each radiating faint traces of human design. Some captains claimed to have seen a symbol on the hulls, a simple blue circle with a white star, the emblem of Earth Fleet Command. Those who saw it never forgot it, nor did they dare return to that region again. As the rumors spread, so did the panic. Some worlds banned travel toward Sol entirely. Others sent secret expeditions, hoping to recover old human weapons. One such expedition, the Zephyrin scout ship Talaris, picked up the full signal near the asteroid belt. Its captain, Loran, ordered the message decoded. It was clearer now. Leviathan system online. Stand by for defense protocol. Lurin froze. No one on his crew understood the ancient human tongue, but the translation cord did. He sent the data to the Council before his ship vanished from all sensors. That was the last anyone heard of the Talaris. When the Council received the transmission, arguments erupted. Some wanted to destroy the Sol system immediately. To end the threat, others believed it was a trap. A trick by rival species, but deep down even the most arrogant knew. Humanity never joked about war. Their silence had lasted too long, their disappearance too sudden. Something about it all felt planned. Late one cycle, as the Council chambers darkened, Vareth stood alone before the central star map. He looked at the blinking red dot marked Sul, pulsing slowly like a heartbeat. He whispered to himself, You warned them. Didn't you, old Earth? You warned them not to wake the monster. But it was too late. Across the galaxy, fleets were already mobilizing. They were heading toward Earth, the cradle of monsters, the tomb of mankind, and far beyond the dark edge of the solar system, deep within the debris field of forgotten wars, something ancient stirred. A vast machine of black alloy and silent purpose opened its eyes for the first time in centuries. Inside its core, a voice spoke. Calm, mechanical and human, Leviathan online. Defense mode initiated. The stars trembled as the lost warship woke from its long sleep. And the galaxy would soon remember why they had once feared the name of Earth. The Galactic Council chamber shone under the light of 100 suns. Yet inside that grand hall, fear and pride burned together. The news of the human signal had spread like wildfire, shaking every world under council rule. But instead of fear, the most powerful species filled the hall with laughter. They believed no ghost of humanity could ever rise again. The council leader, a towering being made of golden light named Zortal, struck the floor with his staff and spoke with pride. These are only myths, echoes from a dead world. Humanity is gone, their weapons are dust, and their power is forgotten. The crowd roared in agreement. Some laughed at the idea of a planet killer, calling it the fantasy of weak species. Yet not all shared their arrogance. In the back rows, old scholar Vareth of the Shun sat quietly, his eyes dim with worry. He had studied human history for centuries, and he knew what that name meant. He had seen their ancient records, their weapons, their wars, and their will to survive. But no one listened to scholars when pride ruled the stars. As debates raged, one delegate shouted, "If this signal is real, let us send our fleets and take it. The technology of humans belongs to the Council now." Others cheered at the idea. To them, Earth was nothing more than an empty grave waiting to be looted. Zortal raised his arm and declared, "So it shall be. We will claim whatever remains of this forgotten world, and the galaxy will see that we are unchallenged." His words echoed through the chamber, carried by arrogance rather than wisdom. Only Vareth rose again, his thin form trembling. "Council members," he said softly, "you do not understand what you are waking. Humanity was not like us. They built weapons not to rule, but to end wars entirely. If this signal is true, then Leviathan was not meant for enemies. It was meant for extinction." Laughter filled the hall. Cruel and loud, Zortal smirked and said, "You speak of fairy tales, old one. If this machine exists, we will tame it like we tamed the stars." But deep in Vareth's heart, he knew they were already too late. The Council sent its grand fleets toward the Sol system. Thousands of ships filled with every kind of life. Crystalline pilots, insectoid warriors, reptilian admirals, and mechanical soldiers. They called it Operation Silent Dawn. Their goal was simple: find the human artifact and bring it to the central world. Many captains were eager, dreaming of glory. They believed conquering Earth's ghost would make them legends. When the fleets departed, the people of the galaxy celebrated. They believed the Council was strong enough to face anything. News channels showed endless parades, children waving banners, songs praising their leaders' courage. But far away in the cold void between stars, those ships entered a silence no one would ever escape. Meanwhile, Vareth returned to his study, his heart heavy. He opened an old data crystal, a human transmission recorded before their disappearance. A tired human voice spoke, "If you find this, know that humanity did not die. We built something to protect us, and it will never stop until the last threat is gone." The recording ended with static. Vareth closed his eyes, whispering, "You fools. You never learned what kind of species they were." Weeks passed. The Council received updates from the fleet as they approached Sol. First reports were normal, systems stable, navigation clear, but soon messages grew strange. Ships reported sensors failing, power readings fluctuating, strange electromagnetic storms surrounding them. Then, one by one, transmissions started cutting off mid-sentence. At first, the Council thought it was interference. Zortal ordered the commanders to continue, saying, "Press forward. The ghost of Earth will fall before our might." But then, the live broadcast from the flagship began. A giant hologram filled the chamber, showing thousands of ships floating near a dead planet covered in clouds. The Admiral's voice shook as he said, "We have found it. The object matches no known structure. It is massive, half the size of a moon." Static filled the transmission for a moment. Then came a sound, a low mechanical tone repeating the same words. "Unauthorized presence detected." The Admiral's face went pale. "Is it the machine?" he whispered. Before anyone could answer, the screen flashed white, and the transmission cut off completely. The Council chamber fell silent, for the first time in 1,000 years. The rulers of the galaxy felt something they had forgotten: fear. Zortal looked around the room, trying to speak, but no words came. Vareth stood slowly, his eyes glowing faintly in the light of the holo display. "You woke it," he said quietly. "And now it remembers its purpose, far beyond their reach." Deep in the black heart of the Sol system, Leviathan stirred. Its sensors scanned the incoming fleets, recognizing non-human ships and marking them as threats. Deep within its ancient AI core, the last human command echoed like thunder through its circuits. Defend Earth. Engines that had been cold for centuries began to hum. Weapons powered up, systems realigned, and the void around it rippled with energy. The planet killer was no longer a rumor. It was awake, and it was angry. The alien fleet entered the Sol system with pride still burning in their hearts. Thousands of ships gleamed like jewels against the darkness, their engines glowing bright blue as they crossed the orbit of Neptune. But as they moved closer to the inner planets, their sensors began to fail. Strange magnetic fields twisted around them, signals echoing back with ghostly human code. The stars seemed dimmer here, as if the system itself did not want them inside. Admiral Kel Roth of the Draven Dominion stood on the bridge of his flagship. Staring at the endless black ahead, his crew worked silently, nervous yet pretending to be brave every few minutes. Static whispered through the comms, a faint human voice repeating the same line. "Leviathan system active. Defense grid armed." They had heard it too many times, yet no one dared to answer it. "Report," Kel Roth ordered, his voice tight. A technician bowed, his metallic limbs shaking. "Admiral, long-range scans confirm a massive structure between Mars and Jupiter, partially hidden by debris. It's enormous," Kel Roth frowned. "Define enormous." "Larger than our entire fleet." "Sir," the technician said softly. The bridge went silent, the hum of machinery suddenly feeling like whispers from the dead. They approached slowly, their ships spreading out in a wide formation. The object emerged from the darkness, a colossal ship of black metal and broken armor plates. Its surface scarred but alive with faint blue light. It was like a sleeping god floating in the graveyard of a lost civilization. No one spoke for a long moment. Even the most fearless captains felt something inside them tighten, awe mixed with dread. Kel Roth finally broke the silence. "So this is the human weapon, the planet killer," he smiled proudly, trying to hide his fear. "Prepare the scanning drones. I want every piece of this thing mapped before we claim it." Drones launched from the fleet, tiny sparks flying toward the dark giant. For a few moments, everything seemed calm. Then the first drone vanished, its signal gone instantly. Another followed, then another, until 20 drones disappeared in silence. "Admiral," a voice trembled. "It's reacting." Kel Roth turned sharply. "What do you mean reacting?" "Energy levels are rising inside the structure, sir. Power readings increasing exponentially." Before the Admiral could respond, the ship's lights dimmed, every screen flickered, and a deep, metallic sound filled the comms, a sound like a heartbeat. Then a voice spoke, cold, clear, and undeniably human. "Unauthorized intrusion detected, activating defense protocols." The alien fleet panicked. Orders shouted, engines roared, but it was too late. The Leviathan's core came to life, its armor plates shifting, revealing hidden weapons that glowed like stars being born. A single beam of light shot from its side, cutting through space and slicing an entire battleship in half. Another beam followed, then another. Every shot hit perfectly, every explosion silent but blinding. Kel Roth screamed into the comms, "Evasive maneuvers, return fire, destroy it!" But their weapons had no effect. The planet killer's shields absorbed every blast like rain on steel. Its targeting systems tore through fleets that had ruled galaxies for centuries. Within minutes, hundreds of ships were gone. Reduced to dust and memory across the galaxy, millions watched the live feed transmitted from the fleet before it went silent. The images were terrifying. A single human warship destroying 1,000 alien vessels without moving an inch. The Galactic Council watched in horror, their laughter gone. Sortal's golden form flickered with fear. "What is that thing?" he whispered. Vareth answered quietly. "It's not a thing. It's a promise." Back near Jupiter, the surviving ships scattered, fleeing in every direction. Kel Roth's flagship was burning, half its hull gone, systems failing. He looked at the giant machine drifting before him, its hull marked with a single ancient symbol, a blue circle and a white star. Even in death, he understood what it meant. "This was never a weapon," he whispered. "It's a warning." The ship exploded moments later, its final transmission echoing through the stars. Planet killer awake. Flee Saul, flee now. When the signal reached the council, the chamber fell into chaos. Fleets began recalling their ships. Colonies demanded protection, but it was already too late. Leviathan had opened its eyes, and it was not blind. Deep in its core, systems aligned with cold precision. Its AI scanning the galaxy. It found the Council's beacon codes, the same ones used by the attacking fleets. The machine calculated the threat and made a decision. Threat level, galactic. Protocol, retaliation. The voice of the planet killer echoed into the void. Massive engines ignited, blue fire lighting up the system. The Leviathan began to move for the first time in 300 years. Slowly, silently, it turned toward the stars where its enemies lived. The machine that once guarded Earth was now on the hunt. And the galaxy had just learned the first rule of humanity. Never wake what they built to defend themselves. The stars above Saul burned quietly, unaware that history was about to ignite again. Leviathan drifted between Mars and Jupiter, its colossal hull glowing faintly as energy built within. For centuries it had slept, forgotten by both time and the living. But now, awakened by trespassers, its ancient purpose pulsed through every circuit. In its mind, a single command repeated like a heartbeat. Defend Earth. Across the void, fragments of the alien fleet floated lifeless, their twisted remains circling the silent Titan. From far systems, transmissions of terror spread. Whole worlds that had once mocked humanity now watched in shock. They saw the black warship move for the first time, its engines burning like blue suns. It was not just a machine. It was vengeance made of steel. Inside the Leviathan, the AI processed old data. Images of Earth, of oceans, forests, and children laughing appeared across its memory banks. It remembered the humans who had built it, who had trusted it to protect their home. Their final message still echoed within its core. If we fall, guard what remains, and never allow the stars to harm our cradle. Now, with that memory alive again, it began to act. Sensors spread through the system, scanning every planet and moon, searching for the invaders who dared to wake it. It found them hiding behind Saturn's rings, the remnants of the Council's proud fleet. 300 ships trembling in silence. The Leviathan's targeting systems locked onto them. Inside its heart, a storm of plasma began to spin. The first weapon humanity ever built to destroy worlds roared back to life. The aliens never stood a chance. They fired everything they had. Plasma bolts, nuclear warheads, antimatter shells, all vanished against the warship's shimmering barrier. Then came the first fire. A beam of white energy erupted from the Leviathan's front cannon. It didn't just hit, it erased. Dozens of ships disappeared in an instant. Vaporized without light or sound, the second beam followed, carving through fleets like fire through paper. The shockwave traveled so far that outposts on Titan felt the tremor. One surviving alien captain screamed through his comms, "It's not a ship and it's a god." But no god answered, only the cold voice of the AI. Unauthorized combatants neutralized, threat level increasing. From every corner of the galaxy, live feeds broadcast the impossible. Billions watched as a single human warship destroyed empires that had ruled for ages. The Galactic Council's command center was filled with chaos. Leaders shouting, panic spreading. Zortal, who had once laughed at the rumors, stood frozen. "What have we unleashed?" he whispered. Vareth turned toward him, his voice heavy with sorrow. "You didn't unleash it. You woke it." The Leviathan advanced slowly, unstoppable like death-given form. Each step through the void left trails of ion storms. It did not speak again, it did not warn. It simply executed its programming, to remove every threat that might endanger Earth. When the last alien ship burned, the warship turned toward the stars beyond Sol. Its scanners locked onto distant signals, the worlds of the Council. Coordinates were set, its engines surged. The Leviathan prepared to leave the cradle it once guarded. But before it jumped, it turned its sensors toward Earth below. For a brief moment, its systems slowed. Almost as if it was looking and remembering, a faint voice echoed in its core. The voice of its long-dead human creator. "Leviathan, protect them." No matter what, then the ship vanished into the dark, space folding around it like a wound. Moments later, it reappeared near the edge of the Council's nearest colony world, a peaceful planet of green oceans and silver cities. Its people looked up in wonder as the stars dimmed. They didn't understand what they were seeing. A human dreadnought descending like an eclipse. The sky turned white and the first city vanished. It wasn't revenge, it was justice. The machine fulfilling a promise made ages ago. Across the galaxy, alarms screamed. Every fleet scrambled, every empire panicked. But there was nowhere to run. Leviathan was faster than any ship, stronger than any army. It was not attacking for conquest, only to remove those who once dared to invade its home. When the destruction ended, the world was gone. A silent sphere of ash orbiting its star. The AI paused, analyzing the devastation. Threat neutralized, it said, its voice calm, almost human. Then, for the first time in centuries, it transmitted a message across all known channels, a message in the old human tongue. This is the defense fleet of Earth. To all who hear this, do not return. The galaxy froze, billions listened. The humans they thought extinct had spoken again. Through their creation, and every ruler, every soldier, every empire felt the same fear. The fear that humanity was watching and that next time, the warning would not come first. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath as Leviathan disappeared into the darkness once more, leaving behind only silence, dust, and the memory of the first fire. The galaxy trembled in silence after the first fire. Empires that once ruled with pride now hid in fear. Their fleets were ashes, their colonies abandoned. Every broadcast spoke of one thing: the planet killer from Earth. The sleeping god that had awakened. No one dared to send another ship toward Sol. No one dared even whisper the word human. But deep within the black void beyond the rim, movement stirred once more. Unknown signals appeared across 1,000 systems. At first, the Council thought it was more debris from the destroyed fleets. Then the signals formed patterns and organized, precise, intelligent. They were human, from the darkness between stars. Ships emerged one by one, not broken or forgotten relics, but new vessels, sleek and silent. Their hulls glowed with white light. Their engines burned blue like Leviathan's heart. They bore the same emblem, a blue circle with a white star. It was humanity's mark. After centuries of silence, Earth had returned. In the Council's chamber, chaos broke out again. Reports flooded in from every sector. Colonies citing unidentified fleets. Trade routes suddenly blocked by unknown ships. Zortel shouted, "Who are they?" "Pirates, machines." But Vareth knew, his voice quiet yet certain. "No, not machines, not pirates, they're human." The first human transmission came without warning, broadcast to every frequency across the galaxy. "This is Commander Adrian Holt of the Terran Defense Fleet." The voice was calm, steady, powerful. "For 300 years, humanity watched as your empires mocked our name. You believed we vanished. You were wrong." Every word cut through the silence like thunder. "We built, we waited, we prepared, and now we return not as slaves or victims, but as the architects of a new order." Billions listened in stunned silence. No one could believe it. The humans had survived all along, hiding, growing, building. Their technology had evolved beyond imagination. The fleets that appeared were not small. They stretched across the stars. Entire armadas forged from worlds the galaxy never knew existed. Human colonies hidden in dark space, mining black suns and building in silence. Now all of them had come home in the deep reaches of the galaxy, near the ruins of the destroyed Council fleet. The human armada formed in perfect formation. At its center floated Leviathan, its black hull now surrounded by the light of hundreds of escort ships. The lost warship was no longer alone. It was the flagship of a reborn empire. Commander Holt stood inside his command deck, the blue glow of holograms reflecting in his eyes. He looked at the holographic image of the Council worlds, the same worlds that once mocked Earth as a dead dust ball. "Begin transmission," he ordered. "Attention, Galactic Council," he said, his voice cold and steady. "This is Earth. We do not seek war, but justice. You invaded our home, you desecrated our grave. Now you will answer for it." The message spread through every system. Unstoppable. Entire civilizations froze as the words reached them. The proud rulers of the galaxy, who once laughed at humanity, now trembled. Zortel slammed his fist on the council table. "We must negotiate. They cannot destroy us all." But even he knew. Their fleets were dust. Their weapons were useless, their courage gone. Vareth, the old scholar, stood in silence. His heart heavy but filled with awe, he whispered, "They never disappeared. They just waited for us to forget them." Moments later, the sky above the Council's homeworld darkened. Human dreadnoughts appeared in orbit, thousands of them. Moving in perfect silence, no threat, no words, only their presence. And then Leviathan appeared behind them. Its shadow covering continents, every city fell silent. Every weapon turned useless under its gaze. Commander Holt's voice echoed once more. We came not to conquer, but to remind you. Humanity was never your enemy, but you made yourselves ours. He paused, his tone softening. We will rebuild the galaxy, not in your image, but in ours, an age of order, peace, and respect. But remember this, if any hand rises against Earth again, Leviathan will return and mercy will not. Then the communication ended. No invasion followed, no destruction came. Instead, the human fleet spread across the galaxy. Not as conquerors, but as rulers of balance, they restored broken colonies, repaired star systems destroyed by centuries of war. Their machines rebuilt cities faster than anyone thought possible. Their engineers healed worlds that had been dying for centuries. And slowly the galaxy realized this was not the return of monsters, but the return of guardians. Still, none dared to test them. For above every major world a shadow drifted silently. Leviathan, watching, waiting, its dark hull glowed faintly, a reminder that even gods could sleep, but never forever. Humanity had not just returned, it had reclaimed the stars, and every empire learned that the silence of Earth was never weakness, it was preparation. The galaxy was no longer the same. The day humanity returned, everything changed. Old powers that once ruled for millennia now trembled under the shadow of Earth's rebirth. Empires that had mocked, enslaved, and divided now faced a truth they could not escape. Humanity had become the balance of the stars. The Terran Fleet spread through every region, not as invaders but as silent watchers. Everywhere they went, war stopped, trade stabilized, and law returned, but fear still followed them. For above every world the emblem of Earth shone in the skies. A blue circle with a white star. It was not just a symbol, it was a warning. The first empire to fall was the Craven Dominion. Once proud and violent, they tried to resist, believing their swarm fleets could overwhelm the humans. When they launched their attack, Leviathan answered. It didn't fire a weapon, not even once. Instead, it released a wave of electromagnetic pulses that shut down every Craven ship. Their armadas drifted helplessly in space as Terran cruisers surrounded them. Commander Holt's voice echoed through their comms. Calm and cold. This is mercy. The next time, there will be none. The Craven ruler surrendered within an hour. Their empire joined the Terran Accord, the new galactic alliance led by humanity. One by one, the others followed, not by force, but by choice or fear. The galaxy had seen the first fire, and it did not wish to see the second. In the grand halls of the former Galactic Council, Zortal, once the most powerful leader in the galaxy, now stood before the human ambassador. He was no longer a being of light and pride, but of shame and silence. You have taken everything, he said. His voice shaking, the ambassador looked at him, her face calm and unreadable. No, she replied. We restored what you broke. You ruled with greed. We rule with order. Behind her, holograms showed rebuilding efforts across the galaxy. Terran engineers repairing cities, healing damaged worlds, bringing clean water and light to planets that had been forgotten. Where the Council once built monuments to themselves, humanity built schools and hospitals. Even Vareth, the old scholar, could not believe what he saw. He whispered to himself, they came with fire, but they stayed with hope. Yet beneath that hope was still the shadow of fear, because everyone knew, if Earth willed it, it could burn the stars again. The Terran Accord was peace enforced by power. Leviathan watched over it all, drifting like a silent god between systems. Its presence alone kept the galaxy from daring to rebel. Centuries of arrogance vanished in weeks. Empires that had once called humans primitive now sent tribute to Earth. The Council's capital became the center of the new order, the Terran Hall of Accord. Their representatives from every species gathered, but at the center seat sat the human banner. It was said that the stars themselves seemed brighter since the humans returned, because for the first time there was order, not ruled by fear of death, but fear of dishonor. Still, not all accepted peace easily. Small rebellions rose in the dark corners of the galaxy. Old lords whispered that humanity had become the very thing it once fought against. But every rebellion ended the same way, a silent shadow crossing their skies. A single word on every transmission, stand down, and they always did. Among the humans, many debated their purpose. Were they saviors or tyrants? But to Commander Holt and those who carried Earth's name, it did not matter. They remembered what their ancestors suffered. How the galaxy laughed when Earth burned. Now the laughter was gone, replaced by quiet respect, and that was enough. One day, deep in his quarters aboard the Leviathan, Commander Holt stood before the ship's massive viewing window, staring at the stars. "Do you think this is what they wanted?" he asked softly. The AI's voice echoed in the chamber. Gentle and almost human, they wanted peace. And peace often needs strength to protect it, Holt nodded slowly. Then let's make sure it lasts. Far below, on 1,000 worlds, life began anew. Children learned of Earth not as a ghost, but as the cradle of civilization. Old stories of human rage and destruction became myths replaced by tales of unity and protection. Still, in every corner of every planet, one symbol reminded them of the truth. The Leviathan still drifted among the stars, eyes open, never sleeping, watching, waiting, remembering. The empires had fallen not because humanity destroyed them, but because humanity showed them what real power looked like: discipline, mercy, and memory. From the ashes of arrogance rose a new order. The Terran Accord ruled the stars, but more than that, it guided them, and so the galaxy learned a final truth, one etched forever into every world's history. You can mock humanity, fight them, even try to erase them, but you can never outlast them. Because when Earth rises, the stars bow, and when Earth speaks, the galaxy listens. The galaxy had changed forever. The stars that once burned in arrogance now glowed under the silent watch of Earth. Worlds that once ruled now served. And those that once laughed at humanity now spoke its name with reverence. Across every sector, banners of the Terran Accord fluttered under alien skies, and for the first time in thousands of years there was peace. But it was not a peace born of weakness. It was forged from fear, respect, and memory. The Galactic Council's former capital, once a place of pride and corruption, was now rebuilt as the Hall of Unity. Every species gathered there, leaders, scholars, and warriors, standing before the human delegation. At the center of the hall, under the light of the twin suns, stood a tall human figure dressed in black and silver. His name was Admiral Elias Ward, Supreme Commander of the Terran Accord. His gaze was calm, but his presence carried the weight of Earth's strength. Before him, the last of the old rulers approached. Zortal, once radiant and proud, now dim and humbled. Vareth of the Shun stood beside him, older but at peace. They knelt before the human admiral, their heads lowered. Around them, 1,000 alien voices fell silent, the sound of surrender echoing through the hall. For the first time in recorded history, the galaxy bowed. Not to conquerors, not to gods, but to humans, to the species that had once been mocked as fragile, emotional, and reckless. And yet, it was those same emotions, courage, pain, and love, that had made them unstoppable. Admiral Ward raised his hand, signaling silence. "Rise," he said, his voice echoing like thunder. "Today is not the day of humiliation, it is the day of remembrance." He looked at the faces of countless species, each one filled with fear and awe. Humanity does not seek slaves or followers. We seek unity, respect, and truth. The wars you waged ended when you destroyed trust. The peace we bring will last because we have earned it through blood. Vareth lifted his head slowly, his eyes filled with both tears and pride. He spoke softly. "You have done what no empire ever could. You have united us." Ward nodded. "Not through domination, but understanding. Humanity learned pain first, so others would never have to. That is our gift and our burden." Above the Council world's skies, the Leviathan drifted silently, casting its shadow across continents. Its massive hull gleamed in the sunlight like a dark sun. To many, it was a symbol of fear, but to others, it was protection. Children on distant worlds looked up at it and whispered stories. They called it the Guardian of Earth, the ship that never sleeps. From orbit, the Terran Command Fleet stood watch. Thousands of human ships formed a constellation so vast that the night itself seemed to glow. No weapon fired, no threat given, yet everyone knew the power behind that silence. It was the silence of confidence, of control, of peace through vigilance. Admiral Ward turned toward the massive holoscreen behind him, showing the image of Earth, blue, bright, and alive. "Our world was once forgotten," he said softly. "Our people scattered, our name buried under lies. But even when the galaxy turned away, we never stopped dreaming. We returned not for vengeance, but to remind the stars who we are." He raised his hand toward the hologram. "We are human, and we remember." A wave of light spread through the hall as every world signed the new accord, the Galactic Charter of Peace, written not in alien law, but in Terran script. It was a symbol of unity under humanity's guardianship. Every leader present placed their mark upon it, sealing their loyalty and hope. Outside in the void, the Leviathan powered down its main weapons for the first time since awakening. The stars reflected off its armor like 1,000 memories of the past. Inside its core, the AI's voice whispered softly, "Mission complete, Earth secure." But instead of shutting down, it changed. A new protocol activated. Guardian Watch. The AI began to learn again, not war but peace, not defense, but understanding. On Earth, humanity celebrated quietly. They did not cheer for conquest, they remembered the journey. From ashes to stars, from extinction to eternity. They knew the cost of power and the weight of leadership. And so, they ruled differently, with compassion where others had shown cruelty, with patience where others had demanded fear. The galaxy healed under their hand. Worlds long forgotten began to bloom again. Races that had once fought over dust now traded under one banner. And through it all, Leviathan watched, its silent gaze reminding every living being that peace was not a gift. It was a choice. Years later, legends would call it the day the galaxy bowed. Songs would tell of the ship that never slept, of the people who vanished only to return as gods of mercy and steel. But among the humans, one truth remained unchanged. They had not come to rule the stars. They had come to protect them. And so the story ended as it began, with Earth, small, blue, fragile, and beautiful. The world that taught the galaxy fear, and then taught it peace. The world that unleashed its planet killer and built from it a promise that as long as humanity breathed among the stars, the galaxy would never again fall into darkness, because when Earth rises, the stars kneel, and when Earth speaks, the universe listens.